And welcome back to another impactful night of the Impact Education Leadership. This is episode 206. I'm your host, ID34, Isaac Jerome III. Tonight's panelists are Jerry Green, Patricia Sadler, Dr. Eric Davis, Buddy Thornton, and we welcome you in the spirit of hospitality. Buddy Thornton, what you got going on, sir? Thank you so much for being here.
Well, we're just holding down the fort in good old Santana, Arizona, and always, as usual, look forward to jumping in with these panel mates that are such incredible people. So let's get this train out of the station.
I know that's right. Well, the topic for tonight is reimagining mental health support. Reimagining mental health support. Jerry Green, what was your thoughts when you got this topic for tonight?
Thank you again. Giving greetings as the Black student advocate from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. When I first saw this, I was like, it's a timely subject because we still continue to see so many situations going on within school districts and communities dealing with mental health. And even as we unpack it more, hopefully it should make more individuals feel more comfortable with actually seeking help for their mental health.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. And Patricia Sadler, what were your thoughts when you got this topic for tonight?
Thank you for having me. It's so great to be here with Buddy Thornton and Jerry Green. Good evening. Looking forward to having Nina Taylor on. Some thoughts are this key question of how do we express the importance of student and teacher mental health in schools in a way that changes policy structures and the powers of money and resources that get to be at the ground level for our students, for our teachers, and our families. That's my thought.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. And Dr. Eric Davis, what are your thoughts when you got the topic for tonight, sir?
Oh man, how y'all doing? And glad to be here, and thanks for the invite. It's a big deal in the school, and we all know that, and we all probably lived it as well. And my position here, I'm a regional director, school operations manager, and so I travel a lot. So going from a principal, actually living it and seeing it, I see it on a wide range. So I'm down in the Beaumont, Houston area. I still go to Lamarck. So I travel from San Antonio down here every week to take a look at, building teacher capacity, also building principal capacity. So when you take a look at it, at this time, truthfully, I see it more in our teachers than I do often our students at this given time. So it's a big thing for us to address that, take a look at goals, take a look at how we can help these individuals. It's a big thing out there in the world, and we need to take that serious.
Well said, Doctor. Well said. And Buddy Thornton, what were your thoughts when you got the topic for tonight?
I believe that the mental health scourge across America is an always apropos topic. I think we need to really examine why people hesitate to get help, and I think that should be the core message for tonight.
Among adults aged 18 or older in 2023, 22.8% or 58.7 million people had any sum of mental illness in the past year. That was 4.5 million youth ages 12 to 17 had a major depressive episode in the past year, of which nearly 1 in 5 also had a substance use disorder. In 2011, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reported that 1 in 20 Americans live with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder 1, or major depression. Mental health professionals reported that 8.6% of that number was African Americans who suffered from social anxiety disorders, 4.9% from generalized anxiety disorder, and 3.8% from panic disorder. According to the CDC, African Americans have the highest rate of current depression at 12.8%, followed by Hispanics 11.4%, and whites 7.9%. More specifically, in African Americans, the most common type of mental illness disorder includes major depression, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, suicide, and post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression associated in America. These are the facts that have been presented to us tonight that we're going to unpack, that we're going to give some solutions to, some answers, and what we're going to really do for these communities, for these silos, we're going to give them a voice. We're going to give them a voice. The panel is open. What's your thoughts about those stats that you just heard? The panel's open. Who wants to take that first?
This is Jerry, and I'll go first. I think on your sheet that you sent out, it said post-traumatic, but we need to change post-traumatic to perpetual. The reason I say that is a student can go to school, a black student can go to school, and before they even leave the house, they can see something on TV of someone being hurt, harmed, or bullied. Then they know they're going into the institution of a school district where that could happen to them. Then they might have to deal with what I call as landmines, and that's what I refer to as the staff at school districts. They have to navigate the landmines of the educators many times who might want to bully them. And the work we do, a third of calls we get is staff bullying students. So this is perpetual throughout the day. And even as students and their older brother, sister, or parents try to move forward, they still see many times that the end zone or the goalpost is continued to be moved and the rules are being changed, not in their favor. So I can see how young students and adults even can have some challenges, mental health, thinking that it's always a struggle every day when they get up. They got to carry the weight of, am I good enough? Are they going to treat me fairly? Am I going to get a fair shot? Am I going to get in the room? If I'm on a job interview, are they going to ask me questions that's not going to favor or that's going to expose me or something that I wasn't used to or didn't have experience in before? So a lot of different factors come in when we start talking about depression and things like that in the black community. And I'll land the plane right there.
Oh, you landed too. Listen, the panel's still open. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. How to address teacher bullying students. The panel's open. Let's talk about it.
Oh, this is Dr. Davis. On that one right there, you got to really take a look at what the efforts to address, to add on to that, take a look at the efforts that you address these disparities with, right? So from there, you got to go through, this is me talking, you got to look at what the community is. You also got to look at your mentorship programs and look at what the positive role models are for them as well, because not everybody has both parents at home. So they walking out the house without some things as well, but we want them to walk out knowing that they got somewhere to go and they have somebody to look up to as well as somebody to help them get where they got to go. And that's how we're working down here to even bridge the gap is what I'm getting to. You gotta be involved, because I know I'm really involved with several kids, and I know it was cutting arms and doing the different things that way, where the parents just like, we can send them here, send them there. They got therapy and they go and see different psychiatrists, but it's not working. So we got to find a way to bridge that gap, and so that's what we're working on, putting some things in place and setting goals to do so in the area of Houston where I'm working at now.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your initiative. Thank you for your call to action. But still, the voices of youth still need to be heard. They're being heard in Houston, and that's huge. And that's a big move. That's a big lift. But how are we bridging those gaps? How are we bridging the gap, and how are we tackling this epidemic that was just mentioned with teachers being stressed out to the point that they are now bullying students? The panel's open.
Well, you have to remember there's a couple of things.
Go ahead.
You have to remember there's a couple of things going on in the dynamic there. Teachers with shortened attention spans and certainly less focus because, frankly, the entire world went through a disaster for the last 4 years. They need to be reminded more than once a day that the students are not experienced. The students do not have a path forward. Most of them do not have role modeling potential at home. So the teachers need to hyper focus on being that role model. And by being the role model, how can they ever be excused for the bullying that they tend to do in response to, well, I need to control the students. Power dynamics need to be done in reverse. If you want a child to do something the right way, you cannot force them to do it. You need to influence them in a positive way through role modeling so that they are encouraged to do it. And that is one of the core tenets that, unfortunately, most minority children don't see at home on a daily basis, especially in depressed economic areas. So we need to help the teachers understand that they are the one and often last line of defense against bad behavior going into life.
No, that was brilliant. I want to hear from a female perspective. I want to hear from especially a minority female perspective. What's your thoughts?
My thought, this is Nina. I was late coming in, but I'm here now. Glad to be here, everyone. I am currently inner city school teacher. My sister is an inner city school teacher. I have two cousins that are inner city school teachers. I've heard, of course, it doesn't go on in my school particularly, of teachers being, big bullies to different kids. I think it's sort of a defense mechanism. It's like, I'm just letting you know I'm not going to take any of whatever it is that you're coming here to do. Yes, this is a job, and guess what? I can walk out of here and it doesn't matter. Some do have that attitude. I have seen that. Just this past Friday, my sister was attacked. This past Friday, by a student that was not hers, but she was trying to intervene when another child was being attacked, and she was attacked and hospitalized. This just happened on Friday. I think a lot of them come in like they know that for the most part, their life is at risk every day, their job is at risk every single day, and some of them may have a little bit of an attitude coming to work feeling that way. I haven't seen any bullying myself or heard of it, in my situation or anybody that I know, but I know that it does happen. I'm not going to act like it doesn't happen, but it does. But I think a lot of kids come to school with this attitude like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, and if you get on my nerves or you do this, I'm going to tell and you're going to lose your job. So they might have some sense of authority over the teacher or being in that school. I don't know. But it is quite stressful. It is a lot going on throughout the course of the day when most of us are just there to teach.
Let me park the car right there. I'm so glad you said that. Here's the question for the panel. The panel is open. How is teacher burnout leading to teachers having nervous breakdowns and leaving the profession? The panel's open. Talk about it.
Dr. Jerome, before you move forward, I just wanted to tell Ms. Taylor, sorry to hear that happened to your sister. I just wanted to make sure I put that in.
Thank you. She's okay now, but she did have a fractured shoulder, and she's, not doing too good, but she's in a lot of pain, and like I said, all she was trying to do was help. So, that's it. Thank you.
And Nina, I'm sorry about that. I am so sorry about that. Thank you for correcting me on that, Dr. Green. Our prayers are going out for your sister. And, wow. Our thoughts are going out too. And we'll talk. We're going to talk offline about that. That does lead to that next question I was asking about situations like that, stressful situations like that. How those situations, teachers being already burned out, hard tasked, how is that starting trends and leading to more and more teachers having nervous breakdowns? The panel's still open.
I think in addition to the nervous breakdowns, a lot of them are leaving the profession. This year, I remember if I told you last year, I had gotten a number of calls with job offers. This year, it was almost double because of teachers deciding to leave the profession altogether, to retire early, just getting out of it altogether, just saying it's not worth it, not financially, not emotionally, not mentally, so I'm out. So there was a huge number, and I know that out of state agencies are even trying to recruit people to come from other areas in this particular area to work. So it is a big factor. I think it's so many things going on. I worked at a special needs school for 7 years. Kids coming in from shelters, being bused in, being coming in, starting from the beginning, already at a disadvantage, being low. You remember back in the day when you see a little 3-year-old, 4-year-old kid, they walk around, they can sing their ABCs, they know how to count, pretty much so they went into school knowing something. These days, they're coming in, they know absolutely nothing. All this stuff is totally foreign to them. Parents are not equipping kids, they're not getting them ready for school like they used to at all. At all. I know that because every year that I've been in, I'm going on 14 years in education, and the kids are getting lower and lower every single year.
Nina,
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yes, please.
I wanted to hop in. This is Patricia. And I'm so sorry to hear about your sister as well, Nina. And thank you for pointing out this idea that so many things are going on and children are coming to us in a different capacity, right, in terms of preparation. One thing I notice of the last 20 years that I've learned is that we continuously insist on having policy outcomes that are equitable, and yet we're not willing to change the policy structures that are completely colonial. And the coloniality of education right now really yields the outcomes we continue to see for the last 400 years. And I think today being Indigenous Peoples Day, it underscores for us that we've seen this movie before. We've seen the policies of extraction and depletion, which I believe is what's at play with our teachers, with our administrators. We had teachers leaving the profession well before the pandemic. We have, I believe, something like 25% of the vacancies of administrators still unfilled across the country. We also see children not showing up to school. And I believe that this is completely connected to the coloniality of how we understand and allocate resources, power, and really at the end of it, money and time for children. We continue to have a hierarchy that is top down, sending down policies to where they're implemented at the classroom level. And oftentimes, those policies, well-meaning, come down, and teachers are the implementers of the policies, and administrators at the school level are the implementers, and they're completely misaligned with the needs of our students. And so we continuously produce inequitable outcomes, expecting that we're going to have equity at the end of the day. But with the policy structures we have in place, I don't see how we can do that. And yet, this is also the point of hope that I have in this moment, where we can't get enough teachers. We have absenteeism and at a pretty all-time high, and where we get to start changing the game, right? The shakers and the movers, we get to start visioning what we've already been put into us for what is to come in public education in the future.
Well, my question would be for you is does voting matter if if we're voting those elected officials in those offices that's creating those policies that's misaligned, then are they the voice of the people? I'm sorry, the panel's open.
This Dr. Davis, to go along, kudos with all of that. To add on to it, and Ms. Nita started here about the sister as well. Ms. Prayers to her. What we done in the district is they allowed, if I can bring data and say this is what's going on with teachers on the burnout thing, right? So what I've done is I took a survey of all my teachers. After I took the survey of all the teachers, I started looking at the data when kids get in a lot of trouble and when teachers was feeling like they was being burnt out because they was tired of dealing with some things, and how everybody's attitude, emotions and stuff start playing into it. And then I would do coaching sessions. Amongst doing the coaching sections, you hear everything. You see everything. You got some people breaking down in your office and so on and so on. So I took it back to my superintendent and I said, he usually gives me autonomy because we've done so well on the instructional side where we went from like an F to an A. So that kind of helped out being able to have some autonomy and really looking out for your people. So what we came up with after I took the survey, and this is dealing with the burnout piece, is that teachers asked for a week off in October. So I asked why October, because they know when they were feeling what they were feeling. So about October, that second week, they all say that's when they was feeling the burnout, and that's when you notice things with the students as well. So what we turned around and done is we said, okay, we looked at the schedule, the whole calendar. We put some things together to make sure we still have all our instructional hours in, and we sent it to TEA. They came back and approved hours. We were able to even have the teachers. We just came back today. They was off all last week, and every Friday for the whole school year, all our teachers, we threw at 1:00. So then we have these other days called ATSI days. So on that Friday, if we invite students, right? So I'm going to invite my lower students to come. I got 15 to 1. I'm good. But if I don't want to, I don't have to. They get that day off, and they still get paid. So the teachers that want to do some things with their students, they get them there on an invite. We sign off on it. We do it. Now, true enough, that's on a grant, so they get extra pay. But that's where we stopped our burnout at, is when we had that ASCII day on that Friday, they don't have to come. They invite their students to come, and if not, they're good as gold, and they're out. And then we gave them that week. So when we got back today, one campus, we took the survey, and on that survey, all you got was thank you, because they needed that little bit of time off from burnout, and they were able to reflect on where their emotions was and how they may have said some things to a student that needed a pat on the back instead of a slap on the face. So those are the stuff we got today, and what I've done at one campus, I'll do the same thing tomorrow, and then I'll see how they all felt. But it looked like it worked on the burnout. They came back more pumped up. Music is on. Kids getting out of cars. Everybody getting a hug. We didn't really have that going on a couple of weeks ago, but we got it going on that way now. So burnout is a big thing, and how it's not just the teachers. Some of the students are tired of seeing them as well. So, it's a back and forth thing, and then you're trying to deal with discipline and all that. But I keep track of data on how this has happened. What's going on and what time frame. And we gave them what they asked for, so we're looking to get what we want out of that as well. But that was just an additive to what we did amongst my 3 schools to help teachers with burnout.
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. Listen, the panel is open. Let me ask this question, then we're going to I want to go and
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Dr. Davis, so since you're looking at 6 weeks, 8 weeks till the teachers get burnt out, so what is your perspective, or how do you feel about year-round, where they get a little shorter breaks? Do you think that would help also with the teacher burnout?
It's a give and take. I do believe either or, right? Because, like I say, I survey them to see where they are and how they're feeling and what they ask for, and then I go and support it out there that way. Because where we have those 3 campuses, I do that. But the other campuses, they decided to do it year-round. So after every report card, they get another week out. So their spring breaks are 2 weeks, and then they get a little bit more time at Christmas. I don't want to completely lose out on my instructional time and make sure your kid gets what they get, because, in the end, like I told them, they're looking at that data, what the state scores are as well. But it's a give and take on some things like that, because next year they even stand the possibility of doing the break shorter, but giving them one in, I want to say they want to do one like in September and then the end of October. So it's a give and take on that. But I do believe if you know your staff and you see what's going on and you do your regular coaching so that you do get your feedback along the way and see what's going on in classrooms as far as like the teacher-student relationship, you can kind of key in on it to make sure that you're doing something to help them. Because as long as you're helping them, I thank God for it. I have a good staff. They do real well every year academically. So we do try to give them a little bit. And if we have to lean, we lean. But yes, I do believe that maybe a little bit more would help a little bit more. You just got to look at the timing for the school year.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Davis. It's so inspiring, and this is, the from the ground up policy making that you are making happen for your teachers, your students, and for all of your staff. And I think this is absolutely what is needed. So thank you for giving us that example, and thank you for the work that you put into that.
And believe me, I'm tired. I drive from San Antonio 3 hours just to work all week in Houston and go back home. But I like it. I like what I do.
I think what you do is the bedrock of the topic for tonight. Reimagining. Because in the word reimagining is the word image. And I believe that in order to have an image, there was first an imagination, right? And in that imagination is a nation of images, right? And each nation in that image represents a brand or an idea or a logo or a thought. And so with that, when you are reimagining mental health service support, for you, I believe that's what it looks like. But let's go around the panel. What does reimagining mental health support look like for you? The panel's open. Who wants to take that first?
Well, I'll jump in. The problem in the school system is that the teachers are ill-equipped to deal with mental health issues. The secondary problem is that as we have a reducing pool of teachers and the students are less engaged in school, we have a shrunken situation where trust is starting to go out the window. Until we can reverse that trend, kids are not seeing the positive role model they need to see. They are going to continue to make choices based on what they think is right with zero experience. And that's going to lead to suboptimal outcomes, which confuses them and leads them to make even more bad choices, which eventually leads to surface level and then deeper level depression, feeling victimized by the system. And then we have them jumping into the entire spectrum of mental health disorders. It's not always biological. A lot of it is created by the environment itself. And I have to go back to the statement that was made. Yes, we are still dealing with a education system that is based on extreme colonialism. People are afraid to make change. The people who are in power, the older people who are in power, prefer to go back to something that can never happen again. And the kids, whether we want to accept it or not, these kids are sophisticated enough to know that that is not going to work in their world. And so until we can get past that and we can start doing what Isaiah, you and I have been preaching on this podcast since we started it in 2018, that we have to start treating every campus and every child and every community from the ground up, not from the top down, and get rid of that 30,000-foot view. These kids are going to feel like we have abandoned them. We have to get into the core. We have to get into their minds. We have to get into their hearts and souls, and we have to say, I don't care what's happening out there. I only care what happens in here. Let's me and you have a walk. Let's have a talk, and let's get things straight. That's what needs to happen. If you want mental health to start declining, start letting these kids feel hope, because that's what they need. They just need hope.
The panel's open. Who's next? Thank you for that.
I can add to that.
Well,
I can talk a lot whenever y'all want me to be quiet. Go ahead. But somebody was chiming in. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to give an example of a couple of years ago. Um, we work, we teach English, math, science, social studies. I'm pre-K through second grade, so I'm early. That's considered early childhood. Okay, so we worked a certain curriculum as far as English and speaking and writing goes for several years, and it worked pretty well. And I think I'm really good at teaching reading. My first grade kids, I had 12 of them that were tested on a fifth grade level of reading. So I think I'm pretty good at teaching those things. Okay, so overnight they changed the curriculum, and we didn't find out about it until after the school year started, and it was a lot, and it was totally different than what we had been doing. I mean, it was a lot. Now we're all educated people and all that, but if somebody gives you boxes and boxes of new stuff that you've never seen or heard of in your life, it's going to take you a little bit. If we had known, what I would have done is I would have taken a class over the summer. I would have been doing whatever it took to get myself up to speed, at least by the time school started, and which a lot of other people did. And we found out that there were classes that we could have taken online that could have equipped us for all this new stuff. Okay, so we start the school year off. We're thrown into this new stuff. We have no idea what we're doing. So we're kind of trying to, blend in with what we used to do. But they say, hey, we want you to do it this way now because now this is new and it's been tested and everybody's doing it. And so we're going to do it too. So get it 2, 3 weeks later, they started calling people in because we're watched all day. We're on camera all day. So they know pretty much what we're doing, in the classroom. So people are getting called in. I was one of them saying, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be doing this. We're not doing that anymore. And I say, I'm just doing what's effective, for the kids, especially for the lower ones. I think I know better than you. I've had these kids now a month and I know what it's going to take. But instead of getting, okay, yes, but this has been tested and we think it's going to be great and all this, all we got was threats. Was threats and, to make it feel like something was wrong with us. I said, not cool. And see, that was another reason why that following year they had to hire 15 more people because people didn't like how we were treated as far as, getting this new curriculum and making people feel threatened and like they were stupid or stuff like that. That following year, we had to hire 15 more new people. So I think all we really want is just support. And when something like that happens, give us enough time to be prepared. That way we're prepared and we can easily go into it and it'll be easier for everybody. I was thinking about that situation because I started to walk out. I said, contract or no contract, bye. Nobody talks to me like that. Anyway, but that's what happened. So I know what you mean by we're just not sometimes getting support, especially in cases like that.
Yeah, to add on to that of what you're saying, and I like that. What we done is we had the same situations and we had people want to leave. And what they've done is they added instructional facilitators to our whole mix, to the whole mix of everything. But what we done was they also allowed us to have conversations with them to tell them what we wanted. So in expressing that, it's like you said, they gave all these boxes, all this new curriculum they wanted to use to fidelity, but the lack of what was going to be the importance of training. It was going to be the access to resources. You're looking at still got to create a safe space for teachers that want to do what they have to do and all that, right? So we took a look at the policies and, all the involvement because we do everything with our stakeholders. So, we do the whole meeting and involve everybody. And then what me and my team came up with is we sat there and took a look at how can we create what we call a curriculum corner. So we created this curriculum corner and all those facilitators, they map out everything for you. Here's your peak. This is what's coming next. This is your whole 9 weeks. Here's your exit ticket so we know how your kids are doing at the end, what we need to reteach, on and on. So we done all that. But we had to back up because that was too fast. Like you said, it was a whole lot. So what we done by we got that like before school was out. So what I talked to my teachers and got them all on board is this is what we're gonna lay out this curriculum corner. They was ready for that. So then I just got with the rest of my team and I said, this is what we need to do. Let's go ahead and have a summer institute for teachers. So we had one for the Dallas area, we had one for the Houston area. So when we done that summer institute, we unpacked all that curriculum with all those books because they hadn't used it to fidelity. They had no clue. They gave it to them about halfway through the second semester, and I felt like it was a trial. So they was like, yeah, and I said, but I just needed to be around long enough to use it to its fidelity to see if we're gonna really get something out of it. Because I believe in evaluating what we used the year before to see if it's gonna help us. If it ain't moving the needle, why keep it? We gotta find something to move the needle. And so, like I said, they give me a little bit of autonomy because of what, because I in the beginning, what I was doing was flipping schools. And as I flip a school, I go to another. And then I just kind of said I was tired of the movement. So it helped being able to be in that spot and have something where I just wanted to support the teachers so the teachers know that I don't want you to just feel needed. I want you to know that you are needed. And I want you to know we work hand in hand with you. So I've never made myself one of those that's above them. I walk side by side with everybody, and I just let them know. Let me know what you need, and I'll stay there till the end. I don't sit there and look at the clock and stuff. I'm a, start to finish person, but that's what we've done to support our teachers when they did give them all of this stuff and expect them to just jump in there and know it with very little training.
Wow, that was amazing.
Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for sharing that, Dr. Davis. That's incredible.
Thank you.
But Patricia, let me go to you. What are the myths and how you doing, by the way? But Patricia, what have you been up to lately? Let's talk about that. Let's pause. What you got going on currently?
So I'm at a new school and I'm teaching part-time in special education with autism services. And the other half of my time, I'm actually working on building a policy LLC consulting for us to build policy from the ground up. So that's in the works right now. It's called Another Way PD, and PD is policy development. And so as I'm listening to Dr. Davis and inspired, taking copious notes, it feels like a professional learning all on its own with everybody here. I'm thinking about Dr. Bettina Love's latest book, Punished for Dreaming. She talks about public education being different if our values are different, and that the possibilities are endless when we value love, generosity, accountability, truth, freedom, belonging, and redemption. And this is on page 287. And as I'm listening to Dr. Davis, autonomy is such a big piece of how he was able to move towards values of abundance, values of collaboration, values of listening and voice, and having everybody having a stake. And this is absolutely what is needed in the hope and in the new visioning for what is to come, and understanding that it is possible, right? It is possible to leverage our privileges, our power, where we are, to make shifts in collaboration, shifts in anti-racism, anti-bias understanding and learning and practices, so that we can co-create these new possibilities, right? And in doing so, I think we create schools that are about abundance and are about values that are of humanity, of thriving, right? So thank you. And I think hope is absolutely the key word coming out here.
Absolutely. And you do so much, and I applaud you in your endeavors. I know you're going to be an amazing consultant for special ed. There are so many changes in special education right now. There are so many policy changes. And so I think it needs to be aligned. That there needs to be someone that comes in that's going to go and tailor to these students and make sure that it's aligned. It's aligned with inclusive classrooms, right? It's aligned with the way they co-teach, even technology and those accommodations. And I know now dyslexia students are considered to be special needs as well, right? In that spectrum, and so they're going to need that individualized support, and then getting the information and communication to those parents to make sure that every avenue of communication is explicit, so that they can understand what those students need. So my question for you, Patricia Settler, is what are, and thank you so much for being on the podcast again. The question is, what are the myths and the realities about perceptions and miscommunications relating to expressing the importance of students and teacher mental health in schools? That's my question for you tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel honored to be here. And I think one of the key things that comes up for me, and I think in our conversation tonight, is being affirmed. One big myth is that if we take time to rest, if we take time to stop the grind and move at a slower pace, right? Like a pace of how creativity happens, how healing happens, that somehow we are not being rigorous and we are going to miss opportunities for the data to look better. And I reject that because not only have I lived it, but also I believe that putting people in grind mode and then wanting them to be well mentally, just that doesn't align, right? I believe one of the most rigorous things we can do is, as teachers, is the inner work of healing, right? I think it's understanding our higher purpose through healing the parts of ourselves that need healing, right? And that requires time. And sometimes just having a moment to reflect. If you think about teachers at the ground level, we are the ones who have the least amount of time to reflect. And I usually equate it with the people who have time to go to the like have the freedom, really, not time, because I don't think many people do, but the freedom to say, you know what, I need to go to the bathroom right now, and I can actually leave, have the freedom to leave. I don't need a person to cover my class. Or if you're a student, I don't need to ask permission, right? Anybody in a situation where they cannot take 5-10 minutes to just stop and reflect and take a moment, they are not in wellness, right? If they're working extended hours of like 8+ hours a day. And so I do believe that is one of the biggest myths. And one of the biggest realities, I think, is that our school year is not structured for reflection. And if there's no reflection, then we are automatic and we are like machines. And we are not machines. We are humans. And we are humans who arrive with all of ourselves to this work. And so I loved hearing about Dr. Davis providing those weeks after the quarters, the marking period, as a year-round school, because what I do believe is needed is time for teachers to be able to have more frequent breaks, even weekly, for teachers to have time to sit with the work, sit with connecting with families, and even time for them to make an appointment, right? To have a therapy appointment where it doesn't require them to leave sub-plans. And so I think one of the realities is, how do we make that time, make that space for that time within our school schedules, right? And then another piece that I wanted to underscore here is the time for us to do the inner work of understanding what I believe it was Jerry Green who said the perpetual traumatic experiences that children are having in schools, particularly Black students, these ideas of landmines and staff at schools and districts bullying students, we need to get really clear about the work of anti-racist, anti-bias work, because that is a continuous work. And we must have schools where it is uninhabitable for us to have staff that are bullying without repair, bullying without, knowledge, because we're past that point, right? Because the harm is too great. And we cannot talk about wellness if our Black students and our students who are multilingual coming to this country to learn English and are being othered in the way that they are, or our students who are neurodivergent who have a different path with which they take in the world, their experiences. We must be schools that are anti-racist and anti-bias. That should be a given, right, in 2024. So I think that's another piece where that is a reality we need to shift, and we must put the time and resources into it. Thank you.
No, thank you for giving us that utopia. I appreciate you for that. I want to ask this next question too. Actually, I want to tag team. I want y'all to tag team this, Buddy and Jerry, and we'll triple team it, or quadruple team it, however y'all want to do it. But are teachers asking for help when they need it before they get to the breaking point, right? And so, how do we teach, or how do we guide or instruct or give those teachers those tools for breaking that stigma, right? Helping them to, like you said, Patricia, helping them to heal, helping them to know they need time to heal. They need time to heal back and grow back in those different places. And they need time to reflect. They need time to reflect so they can focus through the noise. The panel's open, but Buddy and Jerry, I just want to know how will we teach teachers to focus through the noise? The panel's open.
Well, I'm gonna lead in because I know Jerry does a great job of pushing the menu all the way to the end. So I'm gonna let him fill in the gaps. The teachers are dealing with bidirectional stress. Regardless of what the level of the stress is, there will always be stress. So if a teacher is in a campus environment where they feel like they are fearful to step out of bounds, or what the administration feels is out of bounds, then no, they're not going to ask for help. And sadly, that's going to create an environment where they're more likely to either fail or just quit. So is it on the teachers? Yes, we need the teachers to feel like they can ask for help. And when the administration is not doing that, we need to have them to have some type of an equity process where they can step around administration and say, if you want to understand why you're having a problem on this campus, this is the reason why. I would prefer it to be an anonymity type situation where they can really cause reflection and reframing. But we all know that that's not the reality when staffing is 20% down and they can't even have enough time to let teachers feel like they can go down the hall and go to the bathroom, or even take a break away from the students when they feel a little bit of pressure because of something that may have happened. We don't know. We don't know their backstory. We don't know their origin story. We just understand that their staffing is creating the problem, and the upper administration in the schools that are not creating a environment where the teachers feel safe enough to ask for help, get past that stigma. That's the biggest issue we have. It sounds like some administrators are doing a great job of handling that, but a lot more are so mired in the loss of staff and the inadequate recovery that they're sidestepping all the requirements. And I'll hand it off to Jerry.
Parents don't care about their students, and I'll throw that out there just for the shock and awe. Because when you start talking, and what Mr. Buddy's talking about is, it's school districts are a dictatorship. We just need to understand that. So back in the early 2000s, late 90s, I was a TQM facilitator for the Air Force. And we were going through all this training. We were training people. I said, you got to understand, people waited 20 to 30 years to be in charge. So why do they want to change the system now when they said they made it through the cracks? And so with that, it's one of those things to where staff are scared to tell their bosses many times that they need help. Because if you look and say you need help, now you're could be passed up for a promotion or making more money for your family. So it's a lot of stressors that teachers are up under and things like that. I don't know if that's my phone or someone else's phone. I hear a lot of mumbling. Okay. And so the reason I say that is it's the same blanket statement that you hear staff say, oh, these parents are not involved. Know what it took to get that student to school that morning. We don't know what it took that staff member to be able to come in, to be there all day to deal with the students and everything. So with so many variables, just like Mr. Buddy said, that the stressors that's going on outside of school with the students, with other teachers, their peers, or with the administrators who's telling them you got to reach these objectives in a learning schedule. And like Ms. Taylor said, and now you're being watched all day, and you're hands-on knowing what's best for the student because you're interacting. You're hearing what's happening in the backstory. You know how to work with them, but the administrators are saying, you're not needing to go. You're not hitting this lesson plan. You're not implementing these policies. So yeah, there's a lot of stressors on them, but until someone said it earlier, we look at individual students and try to meet them where they are. And a lot of people don't know that's federal law. The student don't have to raise up to where the teacher is. The teacher need to go where the student is, but the teacher need to have that support from administration to help them babies move through that. And I'll land the plane on that.
Who else want to take that? We're out of time. Who else want to take that?
When you look at that, to add on to it, what we looked at and we talked about it at the campuses I'm at, because I'm always bringing something to the table for them. We took a look at what community disinvestment was. So when we talked about, your low income families in certain neighborhoods, and, those are the ones that experienced all the disinvestment, right? So when you look at how they result in fewer community recreations and all that stuff, right? So I went on ahead and just told them my story, but I done it real quick. I said, because I grew up in the project, so I know the dad that's in prison. I know the mom that's in prison. I got both grandparents on both sides raising me. So we knew what it was to be without one of the grandparents, and where we end up at was the project. So I told them, when you take a look at that, that deals with a lot of your family structure. So now you got all this family dynamic with the high rates of single parent households, right? So I was raised by both my grandparents. And I could tell people, I had somebody ask me, well, how you know you living in these areas, or, they call them the ghetto and all that. I said, most of your low income where your projects are, what street do you have on the side somewhere close? You got a substation that's the cops, and you're always close to MLK. I said, and that's what it is. I said, but the thing about it is, we have to sit there and get over those cultural barriers, right? So I brought that into the school and we talked. And then when you got your teachers that, like you say, they were scared to go to administrators, they didn't want to go around them. Well, since I worked so level with them all, I'm not your boss. I'm just supervising y'all. But if y'all don't come let me know nothing, I can't help you. And since I had the autonomy, I kept pushing that. So we had the relationship that was good enough to where I'm tired. I'm trying to get this kid from point A to point B. Can we do a reschedule here? I done a reschedule and I gave him a power hour. Now you can go ahead and do your tiers with your kids. Well, we need a little bit more. I got 5 teachers per grade level. I had a 4, 5, and 6th grade campus and intermediate. All I done was made it so that I have 5 substitutes and we all sat together all day and planned. So now we better, we're ahead of ourselves as ahead of these kids as well. And see, they didn't feel so much as I'm tired, I can't catch up. We planned it all out. You didn't have to deal with no kids today. So now we good. And then teachers, that was on the Thursday. I gave them same teachers Friday off and brought the subs in on Friday. And you know, that right there was a break. But we got a lot out of them. So I didn't want them to be running around talking to all because like I said, I had a 4, 5, and 6, but I came from pre-K 3. Well, when I left to come to 4, 5, and 6, my teachers came with me. Every single one of them, they're like, "What you gonna do with the ones there?" I don't know. I just didn't want to. I didn't want the luggage, and I didn't want to say, "Oh, I inherited this." So I went with what I got, and the superintendent said, "That's his campus. Swap them out and let somebody else do that." But it worked real well. That you know your people, they know you. They can come talk to you about anything, and you get together and make a sound decision, so you don't go through all that the growing pains and everything else. So I agree with what you're saying. I just want to add that on to it. And while they give me autonomy, believe me, I'm going to take advantage of it, and I'm going to communicate with my staff and make sure we go and make the leaps and bounds, because we are here for kids, and kids are first. We want those kids to know it too and reap the benefits later on in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we are out of, go ahead.
I want to say one more thing. So from 88 to 90, I worked in Area 51 with the Stealth, top secret clearance. And we were working 4-day work weeks for a top secret program. So I don't know why we continue to feel that people have to work 5 days when you can let people work 4 days and everyone gets a 3-day weekend. Either you work Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday, and that's the schedule we worked at. And with that, people had a day to relax or take care of their own appointments or whatever else they need to do. And then, but we were very efficient in which we met the objective to keep this country safe. So to continue, damn near 40 years later, to continue to work 5 days, I just don't get it.
Listen, that's so good. We're out of time. The last question for the night. This went to a whole nother level. Has the education system in America, has it gotten better or worse in the last 10 years? The panel's open. Who wants to take that?
Well, I think I'm the only non-educator in the group, so I think I'm going to let them have most of the say here. But from an outsider who deals with the parents and the teens on a daily basis, not on a school campus environment, I have to say that society in general, not only just because of COVID, but society in general has shifted away from trusting the school system. But it isn't insidious lack of trust. It is process lack of trust. They have focused so much on the divisiveness of the society since 2016 and a little bit before that, that school has become almost a secondary or even a tertiary issue, and parents are just trying to figure out what's coming next. If we had a little more stable political environment, that would not be the case, but I will leave it for the educators to finish out that conversation.
Thank you for that.
And I'm not an educator either, so I'll just land my plane there.
I've only been in it for 14 years, but I do remember how it was when I was coming up. I tried to be a little bit old school. I remember what worked. I was training students from birth, And the one thing that I this past week, we had parent conferences, and I said, listen, the more you're involved with me and with this, the better he or she is going to do. And that's one thing that I kept stressing. I noticed that the parents who I've never met, who hasn't, ever been to the school, who doesn't call, you can't call and you can't reach them. The child does terrible. They're doing terrible. They're usually the lowest one in the class, and so I really tried to stress that. And I think some of them, yes, they get it, and this is what they want. And then some, they're looking at me like, I don't have time to do nothing. And one even told me, well, I'm not going to be at home doing your job. I said, oh, my bad. You know? So I would say that it's it's better equipped. Technology is better. Everything is better except for the attitude of people. That's what I would say.
And to add on to that bit right there, we looked at where we're going to be at later on, and I mean, I look at where we are, where we were, and where we are is much better. But in the state of Texas, we know that the numbers show that it's getting worse by the day, right? So I try to make sure that when I communicate, that we also have some takeaways, right? Because I need their feedback. I can't sit here and be talking and everybody absorbing, and I'm looking at myself, knowing I'm not 100% right. I got to have y'all. So we know that. So what we also done is we put like 10 things in place, but we've done our things together. I think it was 10, 15, some things like that. But we've done it so that we know it off the top of our heads. And the reason why we've done that is because we realize that, we require a lot out of the teachers, right? But at the same time, we got to do the support piece with them. We got to make sure the approach is right. And then, they tend to look at what the public leader stuff is. So, we have to always let them know we have several strategies there that we just have to keep in place for us. So every time we met, we took a look at that. Everybody had their own book. So we made sure they knew we was always listening actively, because that's a big thing that some do and some don't. Some just want you to hear them. They can care less about what you're saying. So we always when we done our professional development, we made sure we done that was tailored to the student's needs. And if it was outside of the student needs, then we made sure we tailored to the teacher's needs. So we're not just having professional development just to mark it up and give you your time. But the big thing was we had to foster a supportive environment. And we done that big time every single day we had to do that. So a lot of this stuff we went over when we done our mentoring coaching. I've done that with every teacher as well. So that if I had the new teacher that was, I don't want her to have a bad experience, or him, to where they don't want to stay in education, because what that looked like the first 2 or 3 years. So when we done the mentor and the coaching piece, we always let them know that they have to be involved in our decision making. So we need to provoke like the promote your life balance and all that, right? But when we done it, we wanted them to know we also encourage autonomy with them as well. So that switched over to the PLCs, and the teacher led the PLC. So every time we had to meet with this group, it was teacher led. I just was in there to facilitate. So I stopped doing a lot to let my teachers do so. And then, when this TIA money came in Texas, where if you show all of this growth, you become a exemplary, a regular, or a master teacher. Last year alone, we had 5 of them walk out. And I don't mean walk out. I'm talking about they walked out as master teachers, and we done a whole celebratory thing for them. They all hit, that master level was something like a little over 32,000. So you got teachers making more than the principal. So are you upset with what you created, or are you with what you created? Because I don't mind you making more money than me, so long as we're doing what we got to do for these kids. But that was just a little bit to add on some things that we had going on there, how we celebrate teachers, and just to add on to what was said by Nina.
Awesome.
Wow, that's
Patricia,
amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
take us home.
Um, so just to add on to what everybody had said and what Dr. Davis just shared, I think the question as to has it gotten better or worse is real. I think there's also this idea of hope that has to exist, and I absolutely believe in what is to come, in that we have vision. We know what is needed, right? And what is needed is the work right now. And so if it's worse, then we know what worked in the past and we can ground on that and move forward. But if it's better in the areas that are, I think there's worse and better in different areas, right? And so if it's better now, then we keep doing the work of seeing what is needed and leveraging our power and privilege to spend it towards that which is needed for students, for families, and for the collective good, right? And where it's worse, I always call it the forest fire. So being in this for 21 years, I've seen lots of little forest fires. But a lot of times in those forest fires, what is needed are like little seeds that fall from the pine cones during the fire. And we can collect those seeds and move forward with the seed of what is needed now, right? That was a hot mess. What do we need now? And what is needed now? Do our students need? What do our families need? And how can we collectively put our voices together, leverage our power, and find a way to really go from the ground up, from the pulse of where everything is happening, from where the needs are. We can start shaking and making new policy, co-creating new things from the ground up in a collective, right? Because it's not an either or. And so, and I think tonight we have several examples of how from the bottom up, the work is more humane. It is less of a machine. It is less of a spreadsheet, hoping that, things will work out as the spreadsheet says, because ultimately we are human and we are here to really be welcoming students in their full humanity, in all of their identities, right? And so my hope is that what is worth now, we can ground on what worked in the past, like mentorship and coaching and really giving voice to what teachers know, the expertise they have around their curriculum, around their students, their families. And what is better, we can just, continue to do, because what is better comes from a place of providing what is needed when it is needed.
Impact of Educational Leadership Podcast. Facebook,